back. Twitch is back online. YouTube's not back online yet. There we go. I think everything's online now. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm trying to get this all back situated. What's going on here? Okay, guess I can't do that. That's no fair. Did I lose my entire internet connection? Is that what happened? All right. So looks like we're back up. Don't know what happened there. For some reason, OBS disconnected and reconnected. So I don't know if this is going to break into 2 different videos now. All the joys of live streaming, especially because this is my second ever live stream, and my first ever was last Thursday, and it was like a 30-minute stream just to test all this setup. Sorry, I got my my Dunkin' frozen coffee. Got to be caffeinated. Actually, hold on, I'll be right back. I did forget something pretty important, so give me 1. All right, sorry about that. I am back now. All right, so if you're just coming back with us, just finishing up the rear, what they call the rear Y-axis rods. So we've got the Y-axis motor mount as here in step 4, with a washer and a nut on either side, and then a nut and a washer on either side to go into the feet eventually. So we're going to move on to the Y-axis front stage. So simple one first. Okay, bolt over here, bolt, nut, a nut over here, and then a washer and a washer. That's that first one. And then what we need now is we need this. This is the idler pulley, the tensioner for the idler pulley mount. So we want to make sure we get this mounted correctly, which I believe the second picture has it so we can see it better. So basically it needs to go on like this, and we need a washer and a nut. Sorry, keep going off frame here. Washer and a nut. other side of here. And there we go. So now we have both pieces as the instructions show. So now we're going to move on to assembling the full Y-axis frame. So we're going to need the rest of these here in just a minute. So I'm going to move these parts out of the way so that I can bring these two back in. And it's best if you work off the pictures that you see over there. So right there. So I'm going to set up mine exactly the way they have it. So I'm going to set up this side of the frame with the power supply unit piece facing me, and then the other one up here with the two nuts both facing towards the back, what will eventually be the back of the unit. And then they have the back of the Y-axis frame with the Y motor mount back here, and then they have these two up here. The rounded portion of this should be going on the top of here. So I'm going to start with that one. I'm going to put the rounded piece in this end, and then put the bottom one that does not have any printed parts on it and on the bottom. And you do want to put these in at the same time, because if you start to bolt one in, you're not going to be able to get the other one in without having to take all the bolts off. So you do need enough thread on the other side to get a nut and a bolt started over there, a washer and a nut started over there. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing right there. Just getting a washer and a nut started on that side. Again, we're not finalizing or tightening anything down yet, just kind of by hand, just to get the frame working. Washer, another nut, another washer, another nut, so we started there. So we also want to get this started on this side. Get this started over here. And a good pro tip that I just thought of is that it might have been better if I would have tried to put all four in at the same time on one side and on the other. I just had a little bit of a problem. That wasn't a lot of a problem with bending it open a little bit to get the M8 threaded rods through. Again, not that big of a deal, but it might be something that if you're trying to do this as easy as possible, to put all four of one side in here without having to bend it over a little bit. Again, I don't think it was that big of a deal, but you know, some people like things really easy. So let's get back over here. All right. And washer and nut. Washer and nut. I hate when I end up with extra pieces. I always feel like I skipped something. Don't believe I did, but I always feel like I did when I end up with extra pieces. Let's hope I didn't. Let's hope I didn't. Probably did, but I don't know. Okay, so now I have got my frame set up just like theirs on the screen, and we're going to prepare for the Y-axis stage. So to prepare for that, something I found online is this nice paper right here. So this is a technical drawing of the frame and the measurements. And after reading through the instructions a ton of times and seeing people's videos and watching people's responses to building this, there's a couple of measurements that I highlighted that are mentioned in the assembly we're going to run into here in a minute that are very, 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 very important to follow. I just searched for Prusa i3 MK2S technical drawing, and this was one of the results. I've also seen it posted on the Facebook of the MKS, or the MK2, excuse me, official page and the owner page. So if you join either one of those groups, I'm sure that it's on there somewhere. There is a website on here, slacking. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do my first camera change here. So this is going to be one of the weird ones. So I've got to go to monitor only first. And then I've got to go to monitor and zoom. So it's going to zoom and monitor. All right. So there's the web page right there. Slackin.codehemi.com. This was created by Joey Nuggets on 11/11/2016 and approved by Aaron York. And it's got all of the nice measurements that you're going to need in a technical drawing. And I highlighted the key ones that we're going to need here in the near future. So definitely going to be using this in just a minute. So now in order to go back to my main, I'm going to switch back to the monitor. And there we go. So told you that was a little weird, but it works. Okay, so now what we need, we need our Y-frame. So let me get this stuff out of the way. A little room here. So what this is telling us to do is it's got the Y unit up there. We've got our Prusa logo up. And let's lay this down. And we need our two spanners. And then we're preparing for getting this all kind of starting to finalize its size. So we're going to insert the Y-axis into the frame. And what this is doing is this is allowing us to get the sizing correct. So I don't know if you can see this on camera, but my left rod is going into the slot perfectly fine, but the right rod is not. So what I need to do is, those are all the way loose. Let me loosen these up some over here. Loosen these some up over here. So I get the movement that I need. There we go. So as you can see now, I've got them all the way in. So I just have to tighten them up by hand until I get them snug. So someone did take the time to measure the spacing between each of the pieces here. So I am going to cheat a tiny bit here. I'm going to take my huge, it's huge, pair of calipers here and do my best guess, because these are not inside calipers. These are for just measuring distance between the spans. So 52. Yeah, that's not that close. But you know what? That's not going to work. These only go up to 150. So you know what? We're just going to go with what the instructions say. Guess we could use a little bit more space there. Those are all the way out. Those are almost all the way out. That's pretty darn close there. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take one of these, and you want the side that's marked with the 13. Let's take one of these on this side, one of these on this side, and then move them at the same time so that you don't ruin your placement. And again, I don't think that we need to really concern ourselves with over tightening these right now. Wow, don't do that. Lay that back down. Don't need to concern yourself with over tightening these right now, because we are going to try and get some measurements later on. What I do want to get the bottoms here. They're a little tougher to get to. And again, you don't want to over tighten these too much because these are 3D printed plastic parts. I believe they are ABS, but even ABS plastic has its stress limits. You don't want to overstress the parts and break them while you're building your printer before you printed out any extra parts. Okay, and then what you're supposed to do now as well is you're supposed to take the same frame, move it as close as you can to the other side. I'm going to turn it around so I can see now. Again, so we're going to give ourselves a little bit more room on that. There, on there. There we go. So, what we're doing is we're getting the right spacing here. So I'm going to lay that down again. Gonna get this bottom one all nice and slicked up. Give me 1 sec. Myself a little bit of room there. There we go. Actually, you know what? I think my digitals do go up to 152. It's just they don't have it on the printed part. So. Oh, maybe not. It does. Cool. All right. I'm not quite far enough away yet. A little bit more space there. It's not quite 152 on here. And you do want to take your time with getting these measurements right, because again, if you don't get these right now, when you get the printer fully built, first of all, you're probably going to run into more problems while building it because other parts won't line up correctly. And then also, once you get it fully built and the printer goes through its self-calibration, you'll then get your axes are not perpendicular. And if you have any slight form of OCD like me, you're going to want to get your axes perpendicular. First of all, it's a point of pride. And second of all, it makes your print quality much better. So that's pretty darn close there. Before I move away, let me make sure this all lines up. See, that lines up pretty good. So let me turn this around now. Side. Just need to loosen this up a little bit. There we go. So this is probably what's going to take the longest part about this build, is getting this axis to work correctly. This is the one with the most variables, with the parts that have the most type of movement in it. Okay, there we go. Let's make sure that's right again. Perfect. So turn that off. All right. Now we're going to tighten this back up again. All right, one more check to make sure that that is nice and fitting in the frame there. Yep. And now we're going to turn this around and make sure it fits in the frame again. There we go. awesome. Just want to remind you, do not over tighten these bolts. As you can see, I'm just putting a little bit of pressure once they get seated to the part. A little bit of pressure. Not a whole lot. All right, so last checked. Looks good there. So on their site, for the updated instructions, they do have this video here that shows you exactly what I just did, so I'm not going to do any of that right now. I do not need a gantry frame for the time being, so I'm going to go ahead and put that off to the side. But what I do need is I need some smooth rods. So we're going to go back into my package here. And we have, and sorry for the loudness again, we have three sets of different size rods here. So let me see if I can get these all divvied up correctly. So we have a set of longer rods that we do not need. We have a set of medium rods, which I believe are the ones we need, and we set of short rods. So we need the medium rods. So we're going to take these, put them off to the side, put these back in their home. Go to your home. What, do you not want to go to your home? So this is where we're going to start with getting our accurate measurements here, because these rods have to fit in here correctly. And then also we need a measurement that it's showing on the bottom of this screen here. So now that I got my 330 millimeter smooth rods out, which these aren't the smoothest smooth rods I've ever seen, but they're not bad. You can see that we have a picture up there where it wants us to snap in the rods. So into the two medium 8 millimeter smooth rods into their home. So we're going to push them in here. As you can see, I don't have enough room here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this back nut so that I can get that foot moved further back. Loosen this nut. And it does take a little bit of force to get those in there. Snap, snap, that's in there. And knowing that I didn't have enough room on the other side, I'm going to assume I don't have enough room on this side either. So I'm going to push those back a little bit. And then go snap, snap. Come on. All right. And according to the instructions, there should be no gap behind the smooth rod at all. So I got a little bit of a gap on this side, so I'm going to split the difference with these 2 feet. I'm just using my hands here. It's nothing too overly complicated yet. There we go. Because I haven't tightened these down yet. I haven't got the measurements yet. But the whole point is behind the smooth rod here, and actually, let me show you what I'm talking about. So monitor only. Zoom and monitor. There we go. So let's see if I can get this in to play here. Jesus. That's a little far back there, isn't it? So there we go. So you can see right here. There we go. There's a gap between that smooth rod and that printed part there. So I don't want that gap. So I'm going to tighten up some of these bolts until that gap is now gone. So now that gap is now gone. So let me get back to my main one, monitor only, and main. There we go. All right. So now that I have those in place, Again, we're not tightening this down quite yet, but there shouldn't be any play in there. I guess we can get it all hand tight by now. But the most important measurement to have is right here. We need 100 millimeters between the front face of the back lid of the printed back leg and the inside of the nut. Excuse me, the inside of the washer. So I'm going to preset this to 100 millimeters. I read some debate online if it's exactly 100 millimeters. Some people have measured it after they built theirs successfully and gotten a different measurement. I'm going to go with what Prusa says. They build a lot of these printers. A lot. And if they were coming up with another number besides 100, I think they would know. I'm not doubting the people that say that they've gotten a different number than 100. I'm sure that they did. Why? I have no idea. But, you know, I'm going again with what Prusa does in the instructions. So, almost 100 there. That's pretty darn close to 100 right there. And I will get it to 100 exactly later on. I just want to try and keep this 100 measurement throughout the process. And you're going to go back and remeasure. And then you'll go back and remeasure and correct, and go back and remeasure and correct. It's just the way this building process works. So, definitely not for the people who want to be in a hurry, like me. That's pretty darn close to 100 as well. So I'm going to leave that set at 100 right now. And actually, why am I doing it that way? I guess that's why, because I can't get the depth gauge to work on it. Slightly again. Okay. Can't do it on that side. Maybe I can do it on this side. Sorry if I mumble. I'm just trying to get the 100 millimeter. There we go. Perfect. And talking to myself at the same time. All right, so now that we have pretty much our y-axis built here, for the frame anyway, we're going to continue on. So we're going to kind of put this off to the side for a sec, and we're moving right along. So we have our bed plate frame here, and according to the instructions, on one of the corners there is a indentation, and it's tiny. So it looks like it would be right there, and I see it. Okay, so let me show you what mine looks like, because mine's a little different than what theirs looks like. So I'm going to go to monitor only and then zoom in monitor. There we go. So on mine, focus this on the plate. There we go. That looks more like a stamp in the picture. And I can actually see how shiny it is now. Mine's more of like they tapped it to drill a hole, and just never drilled it. It just looks like it was tapped. So it's just a dot that goes into the metal. Kind of just looks like one of these holes, just not drilled all the way through. So that's it right there. If you've ever done any CNC or any building whatsoever, and you've tapped holes in metal, you know, you start with your tap hole and you drill the hole all the way through. That's exactly what this looks like. So make it a little bit easier for you, hopefully. So monitor only, and then main. Okay, so we're gonna need that. Moving on beyond step 14, step 15. So we're gonna make sure that the hole is down. We don't want the hole up. So we want the hole down. We're going to need the 3 linear bearings out of this kit. We're going to need the 3 U-bolts. And then we're going to need the nuts for those U-bolts. Which we'll leave here. Yep, there they are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There we go. All right. Put this washer back in here. And so begin by locating the marker. At this step, the marker should be facing the table. So my marker is right there. So I want the marker to face the table. So I'm flipping my part over. I'm going to orientate it just like it is in the picture there. One thing I did want to do, because they're going to tell us to put the linear bearings in on a specific orientation where the ball tracks that are inside. So let me see if I can show you the ball tracks that are inside in case you're unfamiliar with what a linear bearing is. Zoom in monitor. So inside of this linear bearing, let's see if I can get zoomed in there. See the shiny inside there? And their pictures are really good. There we go, actually, there we go. So there's a linear ball track of recycling balls. So you can see one there, one there. One there, one. Come on. It's hard to do this. There we go. There. So basically they are crisscross from each other. So one goes this way with one on either side, and then one goes this way with one on either side. So what I'm going to do to make it easier on myself, oops, monitor only, pane. So I'm going to take a permanent marker, and I'm going to just mark a little line right here where the ball races are, so that I don't have to look inside. So I can just glance and see where my ball tracks are. Make sure they're exactly where they need to be. So do that to all 3 of them real quick. I think I'm already behind on time, by the way. Oh well. Mark in these 4 ball tracks on the linear bearings. And one more. So actually, I'm sorry, it does tell you on step 14 at the top of the screen right now. You guys are probably all yelling at me right now. You can see that the instructions are calling for the ball track to be facing down on the so it's like basically the ball track's in the groove. And the reason for that is because these are going to ride along the rails that we installed on our y-axis earlier. And you want all of the weight to be on those ball tracks, not the plastic inside. So we're going to need our pliers. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure, if we make sure that one, actually that wasn't such a good idea because the permanent marker doesn't mark on that stainless steel very well. It's already starting to rub off. Oh well. So if I make sure that one of them is up, I know the other one is down. Before I tighten these down permanently, I will double check and make sure, or not permanently, but tightly. I'll double check and make sure that the ball tracks are in the right spots. But so what you do is you take your U-bolt right here, and you take 2 of these little nuts. You put your linear bearing in the provided slot in the bed carriage frame, and you get those bolts tightened down there some. And then you take your steel nose pliers and you tighten those down. I'm holding the bearing into place so it doesn't move. And here's where I can use that black permanent marker mark to make sure it's facing straight at me. Get that nice and snug down. So, sorry, doing this where you can't see it. So I got these nice and snug down. I'm gonna make sure that that track is, yep, right where I wanted it. So that's good, so they actually were useful. Maybe you only need to mark 2. Probably only need to mark 1. So, again, put your linear bearing into place. This U-bolt's a little bit tighter than the other one. I don't know if it's the holes or the U-bolt. Slide that to the right position. Put our nut on here. Get that close to the hand tight, as tight as I can get it. Get the other one in. There we go. See what I'm doing a little bit better now. And then I'm again gonna make sure I got a mark right there. Gonna tighten this down. And if you do have any tools beyond the tools that Prusa provides for doing something like this, I can imagine a small ratchet wrench set, maybe a better pair of adjustable wrenches or something would work better than these needle nose pliers. But again, I wanted to try and build this as if I had just gotten the kit and had pretty much nothing else to do this with, like some people out there might. The reason why they provide all these tools is because they want this kit to be as easy as possible for someone to learn on, which is great because, you know, I'm still new into 3D printing too. I did build a printer previously. If you've watched the beginning of this video, it never worked because it had some faults in it. And probably me as well. Not blaming the printer 100% because it was probably me as well. But then also, you know, it also had its faults. So we're going to make sure that that race is that way. Going to put our U-bolt on. We're going to get this nut on there. This nut on there. Just to get that tightened down. And again, I do actually like having those marks on the linear bearings because now that I've got this, I can just hold it down. I can see my mark through the slot and know that my the ball track is in the correct position. It didn't move as I was moving it around. So I can, with confidence now, tighten these bolts a good amount. Yeah, you don't want to over tighten these bolts. I believe it even says it. Don't over tighten the bolts. So let me scroll down some here. So use pliers, tighten U-bolt, place U-bolt, use pliers. Why does it stop tightening with the explanation parts until you reach the surface? You don't want to deform these linear bearings. So I'm actually going to back these off a little bit. There we go. And now I'm just going to double check that I do have a race of balls. That could be taken the wrong way. Race of balls. Ball race facing the correct direction, which I do. So now we are currently done with that for just the time being. We need our back. And we need our idler bearing, which is right here. And we need a M3 by 25 screw, which so there's our bag again. So M3 by 25 screw. We have right there. Perfect. So we have that. We need 2 M3 washers. So it's the only washers in this little kit, but let's just make sure. M3 washer, yep. M3 washer, yep. Got them. Beautiful. We need our bearing housing and idler. And it's called, it's a 623H. That's what that is. Beautiful. And then we're going to put them together exactly the way you see on there. So I believe if I read the instructions correctly before, you place this into its hole. You put a washer on the nut. Okay. Oh yeah, we need the bolt too. There we go. Now unlock that. You push the bolt. That's a little tight there. Let's screw it through there. It's the kind of thing that those needle files would do good for, because I'm actually having wanted to screw that through. So I am going to need the 2.5mm Allen, which I believe is this one. Right. Nope. Got it wrong. Wrong. And got it right now. All right. So now we're getting this started. Got through there. So what I can do now is get the washer on the other side, get the nut on the other side, use my needle nose pliers, grab the nut, use my Allen wrench, 2.5mm Allen wrench, Allen key, excuse me. And you don't want to tighten this all the way up, just enough to where the washers don't jingle around. Again, this is a 3D printed part, and you also want this idler bearing to be able to spin freely. So there we go. So now I can test. Spins freely. Washers don't bounce around. Good to go there. Again, we're not going to, this isn't its permanent home yet. We're going to get these measurements here very soon. Same thing with the motor mount, which is what we're going to get into now. As you can see there, we're getting exciting parts now, folks. Getting to the parts that are super, super duper exciting. So we're going to scroll up here. So, all right, so now we're into our motor mounts. So now I need my motor kit. This beautiful, beautiful motor kit. I think these are my favorite parts of these projects is the electronics. I don't know why. I like building this stuff too, don't get me wrong, but electronics are probably my favorite part. So now we need the Y-axis motor. So it's going to be labeled Y-axis. So unfortunately, we can't see the labels right here. Actually, we can. We got these cool little zip ties on it. So this little zip tie says Y right here. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. See if I can get up here. Get to focus. So Y. E. All the other different ones. So that's nice. They do have it labeled Y. That's all that we need for right now. For the motors. And if you look at the back of the motor as well, you could see that it says, zoom, focus. Focus. This is what I didn't want happening, but you can see it even though it's not focusing. It says Y-axis right there. Here. Let's focus. There we go. Y-axis. Nice NEMA 17 stepper motors. So when we're putting this on here, it's very specific with the way we put things on. So we want to make sure to place the motor temporarily in its frame. That's what it says, see first picture. Take the Y motor distance and place it at the very end of the motor. So we want this piece here. So this is our Y motor distance piece. And it's got a little notch in it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So monitor only, zoom and monitor. So there's a little notch right there. And then you got the two pieces that it clips onto. So let me show you what I'm doing here. Get this over my work area. Come on. Okay. It's about to fall on me. Sorry about the bad quality of this camera. I was just using this camera as the zoom camera. So what you want to do is you want to temporarily put this piece, the motor, up against this frame, which I don't know why, because we haven't put this piece into its correct place yet. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do the measurements that I've got on my paper here. So as you can see on my paper here, the measurement between that foot and the inside of the bracket is supposed to be 66 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, because it hasn't told us to do that yet. It hasn't told us to finalize the placement of this yet. So why are we putting something in place that is not finalized yet? So this measurement here, from here to here, because if you notice on here, again, we've got our power supply unit brace, and this is our motor and our motor mount, and it's the distance between that foot that's got the power supply brace and that foot that's 66 millimeters. So get that to 66 millimeters. Don't want to go too fast, because the more faster you go, the more inaccurate it is. So 64, 65, 66. Knock that down a little bit. Too far, overshot. All right, 66 millimeters, 65 point. There you go, 66. So way too far. So we need to loosen these up a lot. And this is something we should have been told to do earlier, but that's all right. We're doing it now. So a little too close this time. Now we can use the bolts to move them across. So almost there. Top's there. Bottom's almost there. There we go. So we're going to tighten this down a little bit better. So again, we went at 66, 66 right there, 66 right there. I really can't get the bottom, but that looks like 66. So that means that the other side should be 76. Which it looks like is almost exactly 76. That was a little hard to get to. Try and get the bottom here. Looks like almost exactly 76. Pretty stinking close, if you ask me. So I am going to go ahead and do a little bit of tightening here. And don't want to over tighten, just a little bit. Just enough. So it feels snug. There we go. All right. Now that I'm fairly confident that's in the right spot, now we can move forward with what they're telling us to temporarily place this. And what we want to do is we want that notch that I was showing you right here. So that notch right there, right? And these two round pieces, they go right over here. And it's basically an anti-vibration for the motor. So I'm going to take that, and then according to the instructions, we're going to snap it on. So you can see in the instructions, it snaps right on. So perfect. All right, let me get back to my normal view here. Whoops, wrong computer. Motor only, main. All right, there we go. All right, so now we've got that snapped into place. Very nice, yes? Very nice. And it snapped into place just like that. So now we're going to mount. Now you don't want to over tighten the motor mount yet. We're not actually going to be, we're going to be loosening it later on. So what we need for this is we need the M3, two times M310. So this is where it gets a little confusing because some of these look very close together, and that is not an M310, it is an M312. So that is an M310, and that is an M310. That's an M312, so I'm just going to leave that right there. And then leave that one right there. Actually, this might be M212. This is M310. Oh, there's the M212s. All right, perfect. All right, so we're also going to need our 2mm Allen key again. And you want to make sure that the wires are being routed correctly. So the wires need to get placed underneath the frame and facing the frame. So just like you see in this picture right here, let me get this camera out of the way now. I can bring this one down some. There we go. So we're going to run the wires underneath of the frame, and the motor's got the wires here. You're going to come towards the frame. And every motor has 4 mounting holes here. So we're going to start with one of them. Doesn't really matter which one. And slide it down in there. Take our Allen wrench. These aren't the easiest in the world to work with, but it's all right. Just need to get it started because we will be loosening these later on. And I don't recommend doing it this way with the long end because you can torque the screws too much sometimes. You don't want to do that and break the plastic or mess up your threads. There are no extra motors. There are no extra plastic parts in the bags. They do have extra nuts and bolts, but there are no extra of the major electronics. So you don't want to, mess up any of your threads. You don't want to mess up any printed plastic parts because your printer's not built yet. So. Whoops. You know what? That works well enough. Okay. So I did not get that in the perfect spot. So let me slide that out a little bit. If I can. Oh, that is not going to work. Boo. Gotta loosen the motor back up some. Okay, I can get that piece. Slide back more. Gotta take the motor off. That little spacer piece does not want to work in where it's at. It needs to move all the way off to the side more. So make sure you get that piece in the right spot. I mean, it tells you to. Yeah, it says right there. Note the correct orientation of this cutout for motor wires is very important. It is. I just found that out for myself. So it needs to move over that way a little bit. I didn't realize just how important it was. There we go. Now get the bolts started again. Okay, we're not tightening these all the way down yet. This is snug. We're going to be loosening them here in a little bit to complete another operation. And if you've got a set of ball end Allen wrenches or an Allen screwdriver with ball ends, that would only be more and more helpful right in spots like this where it's tighter. I do have them. I just don't want to use them right now. I want to make this again a video that will help people who are building this kit for the first time and don't have those kind of tools yet. All right, so we've got the wires and the motor mounted correct spot, aligning the Y end stop. So insert the Y end stop connector. So where's the Y end stop? All right. So right here in the electronics box, we are going to have the Y end stop, which is one of these two here. Beautiful. We only need one of you, please. Thank you. And we want to make sure that we are aligning this correctly, not with the wire colors, but with where the button is. So the first thing we need to do is we need to run the cable correctly, so it goes down in between the motor and the rods here, which is one of the reasons why we left it loose, because you got to push the motor forward a little bit. So you pull that all the way through. It ends up going underneath the frame, just like the motor wire did. Pull that through. Now we've got our end stop here. And everything is through, and now we can use 2.5mm Allen key to secure the motor to 3D print it apart. I've already got that mostly secured, but at the same time, doing all instructions, it's good. All right, so now we're going to move on to installing the Y end stop. So it's very important that the Y end stop be installed correctly. So ensure the correct placement using marker on the printed part. See third picture with the pink. So what it's telling us is that the button needs to be towards the motor. So you can see in the picture with the green. Oops, I actually don't have my correct thing up. I apologize. Let me get that right there. There we go. So you can see my cursor here. Right here. Oh, get back to that one. And actually, let me make this big. Let's go full screen with that bad boy. There we go. So you can see right here that button go towards the motor. Here's a little zoom in of it. In fact, I'll zoom in even more for you. That button goes towards the motor. Okay, doesn't matter what color the wires are. So we're going to do that. We're going to put that button towards the motor. And we'll use our M2 by 12mm bolts. Again, I checked that on my my printout here that Prusa conveniently provided us. And I'm just going to get these hand started in their homes first. And there is no nut in here. This is just screwed straight into the plastic. We do need our tiny little Allen key for this. So you want to very carefully but evenly screw these down in, because you're basically creating the threads in the plastic as you screw. So if you screw this up, that plastic piece is not going to accept a thread from a bolt anymore. So I'm going to get that one most of the way down. There we go. I'm going to grab my other M2 by 12. Kind of make sure that, yep, started in the hole. And this is where I really suggest that you do this the right way. Spreading into this, threading into this plastic. Use the Allen key in its long orientation. So there we go. Just like this. And grabbing the short portion of the Allen key to tighten things up, because you can't get a lot of torque on it. Too much torque, you'll strip everything. So once I get this down to the plastic of the end stop, that's where I'm going to stop. In fact, I need to zoom back out. And I need to go back. Go back. There we go. Click. There we go. So, and what you want to do is make sure that it is pushed all the way forward on the bolts, which pretty much is for me. I'm going to put some constant pressure on there. get this bolt the rest of the way down to the plastic. Now that I got it to the plastic, I'm going to take it 1/4 turn further. That one's now down to the plastic. I'm going to take it 1/4 turn further, and that should be nice and secure and far enough ahead of the print there. So that is that for right now. So now we're going to move on to the next step. Let's see. All right, so now we need our Y carriage back. We've got the Y carriage in the orientation as shown in our picture from Prusa, which is with the 2 linear bearings away from us and the single linear bearing towards us. We need our Y belt holder. It's going to go on this carriage here. It is designed specially built for the end stop and to hold the belts in such a way that it doesn't need tools. And there's 2 holes here in the carriage that we're going to attach this to. So we're also going to need our M3x12 nuts. So again, make sure that your orientation is correct. So the open end of the Y belt holder needs to be towards the single linear bearing. And we're going to use in the M3x12 bolts here. There is no threading in the Y carriage, just push the screws all the way in. So I've seen a couple videos where people say there is threading. So we're going to find out. I am still going to get my 2.5 millimeter, nope, where is it? There it is, 2.5 millimeter Allen key here. It's going to help me push it through. Get that there. Come on. Right, mine are not threaded. The plastic part was harder to get it through than the actual metal of the plate was. There we go. Get it through. Push that through. I do get a little bit of catch right there. It's not much. Not enough to make me think there's threads in there or anything like that. So that's it. So there's no thread. So no 3-nut screws. So now we need our mid-sized smooth rods. So what we want to do is we want to slide these in, and they should slide in beautifully. Mine are a little rough. That may be because my U-bolts are a little too tight. We're going to find out here in a minute. These are not easy to take out of these pieces here. Come on. There we go. Maybe I do need to loosen those up some. I didn't think I was getting too overzealous with it, but we're going to loosen it up a bit. I didn't get them super tight. Thought I got them just down to the metal, but hey, you know, you live, you learn. And I think one of the parts that I am planning on printing for this, probably out of PLA at first just to see if it works, is some holders for these bearings, just because the U-bolts, I believe, are still a little on the flimsy side of things. A lot better than zip ties. We'll say that. So I'm happy that they upgraded that. That's a little loud. You hear that, right? We'll see. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to replace our 330 millimeter long linear rods, 8 millimeter linear rods, back in their homes. One of the key things here, I'm about to put it on backwards, is you want to make sure your power supply unit brace and the single linear bearing are on the same side. So make sure you put these on the right way, otherwise you'll give yourself problems in the future. And we're going to do just like we did before, and just pop these right in. That's okay, because that's not bolted down yet. I could have swore they provided bolts with that. I guess there's some in the spare. Yeah, so there's some in the spare. Let me get the spare, so I do want to keep that from falling out so much. So where are those nuts? There they are. And they're just, they're not nylon knock nuts, they're just regular nuts, so that's not it. There they are. There's one. And where's the other? There it is. I see it. So again, we want the open side of this to face the single nut. So we're going to get those back in there. A lot harder than I thought it would be from that side. There we go. I'm just going to get those started on there so it holds it into place. Just so it stops falling. There we go. All right. And then we're going to tighten some zip ties on there. Now, before we do that, straight rod, yeah. It's doing really bad. That's much better. So still need to tighten these up just a little bit. Get the metal, loosen it up, loosen that up. Get the metal, metal. Still, that's a little bit more sensitive than I want it to be. You want this to be tight, but not too tight. Nope, wrong way. Loosen that up. Loosen that up. And because of my black marks, I know that I have the correct placement of ball traces. So, all right, anyway. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our zip ties. And as you can see in the picture there, it's going to start with the same ones they're at. We're going to start with the PlayStation. Keep saying that. The power supply unit. And they've got a little hole on the side for a zip tie to slide right through. So you just slide it right through. And then you pull it up and over. And tighten it down. Oh, and it's making note of the mark right here. So my mark is right there. You can kind of see it, dark spot right there. My mark should be up and away from the power supply mount. So the zip tied heads should be facing out from the y-axis. So basically what they mean by that is that you want them to be on the outside, in the inside of this line here. So we're going to zip it in And it goes right against that edge right there. And then we can take our nail nose pliers, pull them tight. And then we want to do that on every corner. So we're going to go in from the outside, put it through, start zip tying it, making sure the head ends up on the inside of the foot. Use our needle nose pliers and our thumb and forefinger. Make sure it's nice and tight. Beautiful. Same thing with these corners. It's all nice and tight. So the smooth rod does not come loose. You know what? We just go ahead and throw all those in there. Beautiful. Got that done. All right, so now we need the Y belt. So this is one of the parts where there's lots of argument on what to do here. So the first thing we're going to do is clear off the space a little bit. We're going to flip this upside down. We want the axis that's closest to us. Now, again, we haven't centered this yet. So I'm actually going to do that right now because I have the measurements right here. So measurement for this in the center is from the inside of the printed foot to the inside of the printed idler holder. It needs to be 66.5 millimeters. So I'm going to get my measurement up to 66.5 millimeters. There we go. And Samsonite, I was way off. There we go. Make sure a little further than we need to be. Six point five there, and 66.5 there. Perfect. Beautiful. So now we've got 66.5 on either side of those. Grab my spanners. Grab each nut. And tighten them both at the same time. Don't want to tighten it too much. You do want a little bit of freedom of movement in this. Not a whole lot of freedom of movement, because you do want to be able to tighten it that way. There we go. Okay. So what we need now is we need to loosen and remove the top bolt of the motor mount. Like I was saying before, you didn't want to tighten these in quite yet all the way, because you're just going to loosen them again. So where did I put that bolt? This always happens to me. I start losing little things like that. There it is. Let's put those back up there. So we need to remove this because we're going to use the motor as the tensioner system for the belt. And it's very important we have tight belts. Unlike your real belt that you don't want tight, you want it comfy, these belts need to be pretty darn tight so that they don't get any chatter. Your precision will be a lot better. Your prints will be a lot better with tight belts. So that is loose now. So I'm going to remove that bolt all the way. I don't need to. Okay, good. Turn my my carriage back around. And now I need the only G2G belt that's in the bag. GT2 belt that was in the Step 2 Y-axis bag. So what it's telling me to do is, as you can see here, we've got the long end on our left and the short end on our right, which I also have the long end on my left and the short end on my right. And it's telling me that I'm going to feed it with the the teeth of the belt up around the bottom loop, and I'm going to come back out the other side It doesn't tell you exactly how many teeth, but according to the pictures, it looks like about 3 or 4 teeth. So if I take this picture and I zoom into it, you can kind of see right there, past this end of the printed part, we have 1, 2, 3 teeth, 1, 2, 3 teeth. So I'm going to go with what they got again. It's going to be a little bit on the difficult side to do, but it's tough to see exactly how many teeth I have there. So it looks like I've got 3 as of right this second. So 1, 2, 3, yep. And so let me go back to the main one here. So we want to get that on there. And you see it's got that picture where they've got you holding it like that, but I don't know how they got the exact loop right. And then you push it in, and then you use the pliers to start pushing everything in. And the whole theory is that they the teeth hold each other, because this little race is just big enough, or just smaller than this belt is doubled over on itself. So the teeth lock into each other, and you get that nice. Oh, that's that motor. Oh, I'm glad I didn't lose that. So I'm going to use the pliers just like they do. And then I'm going to grab, just like they show here, both of the pieces and pull it tight. All right. Now, we want to put the tooth gear, the G2 16 pulley on the Y motor shaft. We're going to need one of our smaller Allen keys. I believe it's the 2mm Allen key. Yep. These set screws, we want to make sure they're backed out enough. On the shaft of the motor, there is a flat key on here, and you want to make sure that one of those set keys, the set screws, are along that key. You don't need to tighten these up all the way yet, because we do want to move them to be in line with the belt here in a few minutes. I believe they mentioned that already. Don't press the pulley against the motor, leave a gap. So you do want to leave a gap. And I'm going to just tighten this set screw up enough to stop it from sliding in and out. My next set screw goes in there far. Now it's already noon. Come on. There we go. Finally caught. Or not yet. Maybe not. Did. Two hands on it now. I really wish we would have gotten this on there before putting the motor on. But again, I'm following their instructions. They know what they're doing. There's a reason why, I'm sure. I just don't understand it, but I don't have to understand it to comply. Oh, that one's already tight. Probably using the wrong one. That may be why it was taking so long. And these Allen keys aren't marked, and I'm not enough of a do-it-yourselfer to know these keys just by looking at them. There we go. So, sorry for my ignorance on that. I was using the really tiny Allen key that I really didn't need to be using. All right, so what we're going to do now is, obviously it says to place it on there. You want to leave a little bit of a gap. It says a 1 millimeter gap, so it's actually got a specific gap on there. Okay, so I like that. I like specific measurements. I don't think I can get my, maybe I can. So let me loosen this back up some. See, I don't remember seeing that it had an exact measurement on there before. There we go. Okay, so I can't get that in there. So this is where I'm going to bust out my little tool here. So 1 millimeter is right there. Check that. Yep, 1 millimeter is good. And that set screws on that key. Put that away, turn it off. Beautiful. I like exact measurements. They are good. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the Y belt placement. So now it's got us threading it tooth side down through the pulley, back across itself, around the motor tooth pulley, and then back here. So now what we're going to do is the same exact thing we did before with the other belt, but now we're going to pull it. And again, okay, so we're going to pull around that, right, just like that. And now we're going to loop this around the top portion. And these pictures don't really show as much as I would like. You can kind of see if I zoom into this one. Boom, boom, boom. Look, you can see those layer lines. Like 3 teeth beyond that again. So, again, I don't know how they got that exactly. Right-handed. So I'm going to push that in there like that. And the problem with this spot is that if you don't get the little amount of belt on the outside, or as little amount of belt on the outside as possible, they don't want you to trim it. They insist that this is the exact right size belt. But if you get too much belt on the outside of this Y carriage holder, it interferes with the toothed bearing, the tooth pulley on the motor, and it stops it before it hits the end stop. So I'm not too sure if I've got this correct, because it's not even going around there quite right. There we go. I think that's too much. I might have to go back and do this later. Okay, so that's nice and tight there. Okay, well, no, that might be enough, but that might still be too much there. So let me close this down, go back into here. So now I've got my motor all nice and, you know what, I can bring this down here. Now,